Congressman, thanks for taking some time to talk with us before you head back up to Washington, D.C. You've held the title now for 9 months, close to 9 months. What have you learned about Washington that maybe has your perception changed? Are you maybe less Mr. Smith goes to Washington and more getting a little more cynical about what happens up there?
Well, as a 9-month congressman, people think you know everything. And I am learning a lot as I go. I do have an optimistic viewpoint. Certainly there are areas where I'm more frustrated than I thought I was going to be, but there are other areas where things are better than I thought they were going to be.
We've heard talk in the media about the do-nothing Congress of Eisenhower and how this Congress has actually done less than the do-nothing Congress. Mm-hmm. Does that frustrate you?
We have a divided government right now, and that's how the voters set it up. We have a Democrat president who is not real anxious to deal with the other side, who prefers giving speeches and drumming up support rather than taking any move to act. And then we have obviously a Republican Congress. That setup doesn't yield a whole lot of legislation normally. If you look at what's happened, I believe the Republican Congress has passed somewhere between 70 and 100 bills since I've been there in January. How many of those actually were taken up by the Senate and signed by the President? I believe it's about 4. Mm-hmm. The Hurricane Sandy Relief Act, the continuing resolution, debt ceiling extension, the no budget, no pay thing, the Violence Against Women Act, and then this fix for the student loan interest. I believe those are the only 4 that have actually gone all the way through.
Well, and
so to say that it's a do-nothing Congress is actually the opposite. The Congress has passed many, many bills to put our country on better standing. It's just that the bills haven't been taken up by the Senate and the President. And you know, in a divided government like we have, where you have the Senate and the presidency controlled by one party, the House controlled by another, the only way that things are going to substantively happen is through good and effective leadership. A leadership that's willing to look at both sides and try to push things through. And we don't have that. The president is not interested in substantive negotiation. The president's really not interested in pushing things through as much as he is going to college campuses and talking about we need to, do this for the economy or this to create jobs. And he's great at making speeches. He's not very good at follow through.
So you don't think that the polarization on Capitol Hill is going to really change until 2016?
I tell you, unless he changes his attitude and they start working together, no, I don't think it will. I think things will happen only when they absolutely have to happen, and I think that's what we can expect. There was a New York Times interview with John Boehner a month or 2 ago, and they asked about how frequently the president and the speaker talk, and that that's pretty important. Mm-hmm. I mean, whether you agree with them or not, you need to be having a conversation. And the reporter said that Boehner turned over to his staff and said, "Have we talked this year?" I hope they're talking. If they're not, that it really is a dearth of leadership.
What does this do to things our area is interested in, like I-73 and other types of infrastructure improvement?
Well, I've been very blessed to be placed on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. I'm the people sent me up here because they want jobs and economic growth and economic development. That was what I focused my entire campaign on. That's what I focused my entire term in Congress on. And I-73 and the Georgetown part are a big part of that. On the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, I'm attacking jobs and economic development on a national level and on a local level. Locally, what I did very early on was I asked the chairman of the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, Bill Schuster, to come down here and look at our situation and the assets that we have and the problems that we have. And I educated him about the level of unemployment in Marion and Dillon and Marlborough counties. I educated him about the wage issue that we have and the assets that we have and what infrastructure could do for those things. I took him to the Georgetown port and put him in a boat and rode him around, and I took him and put him in a helicopter and flew him out the path by 73 and then flew him back over Highway 501 so he could see the problems that we're facing. I think some good things will come out of that. You know, that's on a local level. On a national level, with respect to jobs and economic development, every day I fight to cut oppressive government regulation, and Obamacare is one of those things. Every day I fight to make our government more business friendly, because I truly believe that our attitude as a nation has been that we're the only game in town, that people are going to come here no matter what. Kind of like the attitude that Horry County had when I took over as chairman of Horry County Council. And when I got and looked at it, I realized the reason we weren't attracting jobs like other places were is because we weren't competing. We weren't in the game. We weren't analyzing what was making us uncompetitive and trying to fix those things. We weren't trying to entice companies to come here, and other people were. Well, guess what? Same thing applies at the state level, and South Carolina is competing very well. We're focused on that. And the same thing applies at the national level. Across the world, almost every developed country is entirely focused on their competitiveness, on how to structure their taxes, how to structure their regulatory burden, how to smooth permit times, how to entice business. But the United States, we're not even in the game. We're not even trying. And so that's my focus nationally on jobs. My focus locally, as I told you, is to try to bring people here that can help us with our infrastructure to make us more attractive for economic development.
You know, it seems it's kind of tough to me when you talk about bringing jobs in and you talk about competitiveness and trying to compete with countries that have so little regulation that their people are making maybe dollars on the day as opposed to over here where you're making a living wage. How do you bridge that gap to where you can say, bring your manufacturing here, we'll make it as easy for you to make your product here as we would say in, you know, a third world country that really has no control set up?
Well, you know, certainly wages are a part of that, and I don't want to compete in a low wage arena, and I don't think we have to compete in a low wage arena. We're so productive that, you know, we can overcome that. And truly, wages around the world have come up relative to the United States, so it's not that as big of an issue as it used to be. But I'm not just talking about low wage countries. Mm-hmm. I'm talking about developed countries. I'm talking about places like Israel, where I was a couple of weeks ago. You know, they have an international development, economic development team that focuses on making them competitive. And they have great schools, and they have innovative people, and you wouldn't believe the investment that U.S. companies are making over there when they're in the middle of, you know, one of the most unsettled areas in the world. You know, kind of Scotland, I mean, South Korea. I'm not talking about countries that are at the bottom of the wage scale. I'm talking about Japan. These people are focused on what they need to do to make themselves competitive worldwide and attract those companies and high-paying jobs and tax base. And you know what? I think that there's nothing more important than that. I think that when our economy is working and working well, then we can afford to deal with a lot of the other problems that we have. And if it's not, then we have real problems.
I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're talking about Israel and the Middle East, and I want to talk about a little bit about what's happening in Egypt and also in Syria right now.
Yes, sir.
Take a quick break. We'll be right back with more Carolina This Week. 3, 2. I don't want to see that end up in a blooper. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Carolina This Week. Congressman Tom Rice, representing our 7th District here in South Carolina, is in to talk with us. You were talking about visiting Israel a couple of weeks ago. And what's happening over there right now, I think Israel is in a very tough position. We see what's happening in Egypt, where things were settled for so many years. We knew who we were backing. We knew who we were giving money to. Now we don't really know that. Then we see what's happened in Syria, where the government has used chemical weapons. Don't care who's president. This is a tough road to negotiate right now. And I don't, where do you think, having been there, what do you think the right course is? How should Congress get involved somehow?
Well, you've asked a lot of questions there. They are in a very, very difficult position. Having been there now and seen it from the ground and seeing what they're dealing with, where you've got, you know, Syria on one side that is clearly disintegrating, and the dictator, the apparently mad man, is using chemical weapons and killing his children, his own citizens. And then you've got Egypt on the other hand, who has been taken over by their military. And then you've got Lebanon, who's lobbing missiles in. Wow, what a very difficult position. But I'll tell you this. We had meetings with people from their intelligence services. We had meetings with their negotiators. We had meetings with the Palestinian negotiators. We had meetings with military personnel. And yes, they talked about Syria and Egypt and Lebanon and the Palestinians. But you know what they talked about the most? Was Iran. I think Iran is their biggest concern. A country that has repeatedly said that Israel has no right to exist. A country that has said that Israel is a one-bomb country and that is on the verge of obtaining nuclear weapons. And that is a huge game changer. And that's clearly what they're the most concerned about in Israel. Now, with respect to Syria, you know, the president has said there's a bright red line, and we will not tolerate its crossing. Well, he said that, and they crossed it, what, 3 or 4 months ago, and he said it a couple times again, and now they've crossed it again. I'm afraid that the president is not real credible. I think that he needs to act, my personal opinion. He can't have people lobbing chemical weapons into neighborhoods. I would not be in favor of putting boots on the ground, but there are a lot of ways he can act, and I think he should. I think he should have already acted.
Maybe some type of precision strikes inside the country.
I think he can't keep saying, "Well, this time we really mean it." I think credibility is incredibly important. Lindsey Graham, my friend Lindsey Graham, told me a year ago that the Middle East is going to explode, and it's largely a result of our lack of foreign policy, that the administration is not engaged, they don't think it's important. Well, I guess he was somewhat prophetic, because that's exactly what's happening.
What do you think of the criticism Senator Graham's taken lately for compromising and for,
I think the primary criticism Senator Graham's taken is on the immigration policy, and I don't agree with him on the immigration policy. But I will also say he is a national leader, and I think he's done a great job for our country, and I have utmost respect for him. I have utmost respect for Tim Scott. I think South Carolina's got the best delegation in the country. That doesn't mean we're going to agree on everything. I don't agree with him on immigration. I think we've got a lot to do before we do a comprehensive bill. I'm not in favor of a comprehensive bill, but and border security is absolutely number one, and I'm not willing to do much of anything beyond that until we get that resolved. No, I think Lindsey Graham's a national leader.
Okay. I want to take one more break. When we come back, we're in an election year for the state and municipalities, but next year you're going to be up for re-election again already.
Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
All right, 3. I'll do them, the 2 shot. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Carolina This Week, talking with our Congressman, Tom Rice. It seems like we were just here talking about elections and about
a lot's happened.
Yeah,
a lot's happened fast.
Yeah.
It really has.
Yeah.
You know what, Tim? I'm a very blessed man, And I really believe the good Lord's led me down this path. And I hope that the viewers out there are happy with what we're doing. We're getting almost universally positive feedback. I'm working really, really hard for the district and for the country, and I hope people see that. So we're happy with the way things are progressing, and we want to hear from you if you're happy or if you're not.
Coming up November, it's going to be 1 year out until you're going to be up for re-election again. And there are always rumblings about who's going to try to step in for a primary challenge or a Democratic challenge. Yeah. Do you think too? Have you changed? What's your stance on term limits at this point, or not term limits, but on the duration of the term that Congress serves? 2 years seems like an awfully short amount of time in this day and age.
Right, and I'll respond to that. But one thing I mentioned earlier that I do want to hear from you if you're happy or you're not happy. And the way to sign up is www.rice.house.gov, and you can send me an email. You can sign up for our newsletters. We have very good regular newsletters come out at least usually twice a week, keep you abreast on what we're doing so you know. We have a Facebook page. I think it's Rep. Tom Rice. So, but www.rice.house.gov, sign up and stay abreast of what we're doing.
You know, I want to bring something up real quick on that point. Somebody had emailed me to my Facebook page who was having some trouble with some type of benefits or something, and it sounded like a federal problem. And I said, well, your best bet is to contact Congressman Tom Rice. And he did, got his situation resolved really quickly. So I do want to put it out there that if you do have a problem that he might be able to help you with, I think his people will definitely get engaged.
That kind of thing we've been working on and been very successful at. We got a great team in the district here, and we've been doing a lot of outreach in the district. We've had a mayor's day where we sat down with them and said, look, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want us working on. We're having an economic developers meeting in Florence next week. We're getting all the economic developers from around the district. We're bringing in the University of South Carolina, the Department of Commerce, and we're all going to talk about, okay, there's been a lot of economic development dollars spread around this state. It's time for some of that to come to this district. It's fine for it to go to Charleston, Columbia, Greenville. We're happy for them, but we got the highest unemployment in the state right here, and we need some attention. So no, I'm doing everything I can. As I said, we're working on I-73. I'm having monthly meetings with Army Corps engineers. We're going to get that permit, and we're going to get it pretty quick. I already got the permit for 31 and 707. I've handled in Florence the transfer of the sewer station in Timmonsville to the city of Florence. I'm working on downtown tax credits for revitalization of downtown in Florence. I'm working all over the district, trying to do everything I can to smooth out the rough patches and attract that economic development that we so desperately need in this district. And if you people out there know of anything else we need to be working on, I want to hear from you.
Back to my original question. Congressional terms. Longer, shorter,
I told you I was in favor of term limits. When I got there, I asked my staff to draft a term limit bill. Requires an amendment to the Constitution that would say 4-year terms in the House, 2 4-year terms in the House, 2 6-year terms in the Senate. In the meantime, while they were working on getting that drafted, another bill came out that already had like 40 co-sponsors, and it was still I think it was 4 2-year terms and 2 2-year terms in the Senate, and I just co-sponsored that because I want to sign the thing that has the best chance of passing.
Right.
I think at this point it has over 50, maybe even 60 co-sponsors. So, you know, but the reality is it would have to pass the Senate with a 2/3 majority. I would say that that's not very realistic until the public stands up and insists on it. But I'm going to keep trying. And I also put in a balanced budget amendment as well.
Let me ask you this question, just playing prognosticator, you know, looking into the crystal ball here. Governor Haley has announced that she's going to seek another term. Say she wins that, she gets about halfway through it and decides she's going to seek a higher office, and all of a sudden there's an opening for governor. You ever see Tom Rice being governor of South Carolina?
Tim, you know, I'm not sitting here to predict the future, but I'm very happy where I am. And quite honestly, the leadership in Congress has treated me very well. We spent time on the front end, between the time I was elected and the time I actually took office, going up there and meeting them, establishing relationships, letting them know about my qualifications and background as a tax lawyer and a CPA, and they have treated me very well. And as long as I think I'm affecting policy and moving the ball forward for the nation and this district, I'm going to keep working just as hard as I can right there.
All right. Congressman, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right.